Just crossed 87 on Elgin Air Force Base. They said there was going to be a tire down here where I get through the fence, but I don't see a tire, but I do see the orange Florida Trail sign, so that's where I'm going through. So 15 more miles will get me out of Elgin Air Force Base, and then looks like some road walking down to the beach, not too far, and then a lot of beach walking to the end. So hopefully the next 3 days are supposed to be dry. Last 2 days have just been downpours. So this is what they call mostly sunny and 70 in Florida. I think the weatherman might have put the wrong coordinates into his Doppler system. It's been sprinkling all morning, but at least it's not coming down in buckets like it has for a couple of days. Anyway, it brings me to the point of rain gear. I get a lot of questions about rain gear, and you know, what I carry is probably sacrilegious to most ultralight backpackers because I'm carrying a pound worth of rain gear. I've got a patrol poncho and Montbell chaps, which give me total protection. And I've got the Showa gloves I can put on my hands if it's cold and wet. So really, if you put all those things together, I'm probably more like 18, 19 ounces. And some people's tent weigh less than that. But I've got full coverage, and a lot of people are hunkering down or get all wet and go to town and get a room. I'm still hiking and I'm still dry. Everything's dry. So on the Florida Trail, I've only used it twice. So is it worth carrying it all those miles? And it's not like I'm carrying an extra pound. Everybody's carrying rain gear, so take whatever you're carrying and subtract from my pound. But again, for me, it's all about coverage. And would I carry it again? Yes, because when I need it, I'm so glad I have it. And it's a great little system. Do I wish it was lighter? Yes. Could it be if somebody made it out of a different material? Maybe, but it's the material is thick enough that it doesn't wet through. So a lot of people are carrying rain gear, and when it comes down in buckets, it'll wet through real quickly. Mine doesn't do that. So for me, it's well worth the price of carrying that extra weight for that extra protection. So now that the lumber industry is running the Forest Service, we might have to get used to this is what our long national scenic trails are going to start looking like. And I can't imagine that's going to stop any fire season, because when they take what they want, they just leave all this dead branches piled up on the ground to burn. How are you? Cut it. Have a good one. Buddy. So the last couple days to the end is going to be all about logistics and where I can camp. And so this is probably the earliest I've set up my tent. I know it is on the whole trail. I've still got about 2.5 miles of Elgin Air Force Base left. But after that, it's Highway 87 through a big commercial area for a few miles and then down to the beach. And the beach looks like it's got condos and houses for a few miles before you hit the national seashore. And even there, I think you can't really camp except in a designated spot, so I can make that tomorrow. So my plan is to get up early, go find breakfast, and cross over to the spit that goes out to the national seashore and make it to that campground. And then the next day I should be able to make it to the end. Should be interesting. You know, I'm going to walk the beach. There is a bike trail. I'll probably end up walking both. We'll see. But I think the bike trail is probably pavement. I hate pavement pounding. But I've walked a lot of beach in my time, and you know, it's kind of at an angle too, so that's kind of hard on you. So it is slower. So I'll mix it up a little bit. But I'll get up at dark 30 in the morning and get a good head start. And the miles are very doable. I wish I could just do another 10 today, but it's gonna put me in a bad spot. So see you in the morning. Good morning. I'm finally off the air base, and now I'm in the dangerous part of Florida, which is road walking again. But I'm heading for the beach. About 3 miles, I think. There's breakfast in my future. So when you cross the air base, you need a permit, which then gives you access to some maps that show areas that might be off limits because of training. So I knew where I slept last night was a safe area, but about sundown, World War III broke out. And I knew it was probably off in the distance because I was close to 87, which I'm walking right now. And I was just a couple miles from residential areas, but at one point I thought maybe I should dig a foxhole. And I kind of wished I had a Dyneema tent because they market those things as stronger than steel, so I'm sure they would stop a stray round. So once I cross over here, I'll be at the beach and headed for the national seashore, which is right down there where you start seeing building construction stop. So I've got about 2 days of beach and dune walking to wrap this hike up. Yeah, believe it or not, this is the Florida Trail. Obviously spring breaker. So for some reason I was thinking after I got past all the condos between this and the next section of commercial beaches, national seashore, and I thought the trail went through the dunes up on the other side of the highway, but once I got up there I realized that the trail is actually the highway. So I came back to the beach. I would rather hike the beach than the highway. I don't like road walks. And actually the beach walking is pretty good and solid, at least this time of day. Pretty flat, Nice walking. I could go all the way to Pickens this way. Found a little shade, so I think I'll have a bacon burrito and take a little siesta. I've got about 4.5 miles of beach walking, and then I go up into the dunes for maybe a mile, and there's a campsite up there. So I've only got 5.5 miles yet to do today, and then a short day tomorrow to finish. So if I could stealth camp any place, I would just keep going, but it looks like there's designated campsites for thru hikers, and I'll use it. So it's 2:30 and I've got a little over 18 miles in today so far, and I'm still on the beach. But I think in the next 1.5, 2 miles, I'm coming off the beach into the dune. This is all blocked off because of nesting birds. But I think when I get up past this next condo area, I cross the road and get onto maybe some gravel, maybe some pavement. I'm not sure what the trail is up there. But you get used to this beach. You know, there's all kinds of sand consistency, and so after a while you learn to read the beach, figure out what sand is solid and where the most level part of the beach is. So once it's solid, you can make some time. If you're sinking in, you're just fighting it. And oftentimes it's down by the waves. I have been washed out a couple of times, but once you find some hard, consistent sand, you can really make good time. So one of the problems with hiking along beaches and up into dunes is dealing with the sand. I mean, it's like everywhere. Trying to be as careful as I can, keep it out of my zippers. But when I get in today, first thing I'm going to do is take everything apart and really clean the sand out of everything. On this open dune yesterday, I had to stop early and there was just no shade out here. So I did find this little bit of an oak covering, tucked my tent back in there, which is another reason, I say this all the time, but it's another reason to have a tent with a small footprint, because this was like the primo spot and it was the only spot, and I just fit in there. Getting an early start, but I got a full moon. Light up the dunes. So I believe the trail follows the water for a while here. We're gonna find out. So it's hard to find the Florida marker poles out here in this dune. They're few and far between. So I just went down to the bay and followed that for about 1/2 mile and then cut in, knowing I'd probably cross the trail, and boom, I'm right back on it. So now I think I'm headed for the beach. I'm not sure, hopefully not a road walk. So the Florida Trail follows a bike path past all these resorts, and it's kind of pavement pounding. Plus, I just walked through a sprinkler system kicked on. Just sprayed me. So I'm going back to the beach. All I have to deal with are shorebirds. And it looks like this morning I've got the whole beach to myself. The fudgies haven't got up yet, so maybe I can sneak through before everybody wakes up this morning. So the lady in the store, she knew I was a hiker. And two guys on the beach yesterday knew I was and offered me a cup of coffee. Everybody else the last 2 days just think I'm a old homeless guy. Which is, you know, partially true. I'm not sure. Old and homeless. I hit my last water source, which was a shower head on the beach a ways back, and now I'm into the National Lakeshore Seashore again. And once you get down here on the beach, you're stuck here because it's all blocked off in the dune area for nesting birds. So I think I come out right around Fort Pickens campground area, and then I've just got a 2-3 miles. I'm done. But it's a beautiful morning to hike out here on the beach. Sand's nice and compact this time of the day. Not much out here, but a few birds, a few walkers. So I'm off the beach, and if I'm right, it's just going to be this trail all the way to the end, another couple of miles. And I think this is an old railroad bed. So Fort Pickens is where we kept Geronimo and some of his warriors for a couple of years before he got his Cadillac. No, Geronimo never had a Cadillac. That's just a Michael Martin Murphy song. He had his picture taken in a locomobile or something, and the myth is that Geronimo had a Cadillac, but actually is locked up here because they couldn't control him. Some people just don't like to get put upon. They fight back, and he was one. Anyway, maybe he came in by railroad and might be right along this path here. So the Florida Trail goes right through the campground at Fort Pickens. Wow. Okay, we got to be getting real close here. Okay, it's done. History. The Florida Trail's over. Would I do it again? Absolutely. Will I? Who knows? It's probably the best wintertime long distance hike in North America. Second would be the Arizona Trail. You deal with less snow with this one, and it's a little bit longer. So what's the hardest part of the Florida Trail? I would have to say finding this monument. So I took video coming across this bridge, walked right past it. It's not at the end of the trail. The end of the trail is another quarter-mile that way. But I did get a real in-depth tour of Fort Pickens looking for this crazy thing. Couldn't find a ranger. I found buildings with lights on that they're inside. I could see people, but they wouldn't answer the doors. So I finally Googled it, and it told me finally, it wasn't on far out. Finally it said the last footbridge, so I knew, boom, this is where it was. But I've looked for this thing for the last half hour. So if you're doing the Florida Trail, you're going northbound, it's not at the end of the trail. It's here at the last footbridge. And I've said in other videos, if you don't want wet feet, you don't want this trail, because it is very wet, even up till yesterday. Of course, we had buckets of rain for 2 days before I came through the sand dunes section, but there was a lot of water out there, pooled still. You know, it'll all settle into that sand really quick, but I got wet feet yesterday, even in that sand dunes out there. You're gonna have wet feet on the Florida Trail. If you're afraid of snakes, I probably saw 5, maybe. When I think back, I can't even come up with a half dozen. Saw 1 million alligators, a lot of deer, a lot of birds, but nothing that's really going to hurt you, even in the deep swamps. So it's a great trail. You should consider doing it if you like long trails, and if you like winter hiking, this is the place. Keep smiling. Okay, after further review, I said it wasn't on far out, but it was. I just never pushed that little flag because it wasn't at the end of the trail. I just assumed that flag meant I was crossing a body of water, some interesting little trail fact. So once I looked at it, it was on far out. But, you know, I don't push every little button on far out. I just assume too much, I guess. So it's okay. It is what it is. They say every great journey starts with the first step. So I guess that means every great journey ends with the last step. But not in this case. I put a lot more steps in before I finally ended the journey. Now I'm going back to this Fort Pickens campground, find my wife, and take a shower. Now, keep smiling. So just feet from the end of the trail, I've seen my snake number 6, I guess, water moccasin, just floating in the water this morning, enjoying the sun.